Hello dear students, how are you? In this video we are going to discuss the nutritive needs for plants. Our objective is deduce the necessary elements needed for the development of plants. Before we start, please bring your biology worksheet, a pen and a notebook, and sit in a quiet room. Observe this figure, please. What do you notice? What happened to the second plant? Here you can see clearly that the second plant died. Why did the second plant die? We all know that a plant is a living thing. What does it need to survive? Does it need water or sugar, sunlight, or maybe oxygen gas? Let's find out. In order to find out the nutritive needs for chlorophyll plants, we performed several experiments following the steps of scientific method. What do we mean by chlorophyll plants? Chlorophyll plants are green plants that contain chlorophyll pigment, which means they are the green plants that have chlorophyll inside them. What do we mean by the word nutritive needs? Nutritive needs are the essential materials that must be present for the development of plants, which means they are the important things that must be found for the plant to develop. Before we start, let's remember the steps of scientific method. First one, we have observation, posing a problem, hypothesis, performing an experiment, and finally reaching a conclusion. Experiment 1 in worksheet 4. Observe this figure, please. Here we have two plants, plant A and plant B. As you see in the figure, plant A is exposed to sunlight while plant B is put in a box. So, what is the tested factor in this experiment? What are we testing in this experiment? What do you think? The presence of sunlight, since sunlight is present only in one case. Pause the problem under study. Write the answer in worksheet 4, question 2. Here when we find plant A is exposed to sunlight while plant B is put in a box, then what is the problem of this experiment? What is the question that comes to your head when you observe this figure? Is the presence of sunlight necessary for the development of plants? This is the question or the problem. What shall we do to find the answer? We are going to make an experiment. Let's see. Procedure of the experiment. First, cultivate two identical plants in two identical jugs containing the same type and quantity of soil. Name the first plant A and the second plant B. Add the same quantity of water for each plant. Expose plant A to light and put plant B in the dark. Observe the two plants each day during 2 weeks. Observe the experiment, please. List the controlled variables and the manipulated variable. Write the answer in worksheet 4, question 1. Remember, the controlled variables are the common conditions between the two setups of the experiment. What is common between setup A and setup B? For example, here we have, observe the same type of plant. We have the same type of jugs, same type and quantity of soil, same type and quantity of water, and many others. Remember, we have more than one controlled variable. What is the manipulated variable or the independent variable? Which means the different condition or the difference between the two setups of the experiment. This is setup A, and here we have setup B. What is the difference between setup A and B? We have what? The presence or absence of sunlight. Write the problem posed by the student. Remember, what do we mean by problem? Problem is the question that comes to your head after a specific observation. So here, what question comes to your head after you observe this figure? Is the presence of sunlight necessary for the development of plants? Okay, here, Now, for this question, formulate the tested hypothesis. Remember, what do we mean by a hypothesis? A hypothesis is a prediction of the results of the experiment. What do you expect the answer of the question to be? What do you think? It may be hypothesis, sunlight is necessary for the development of plants. This is an example. You may write another hypothesis as well. Compare the aspect of the two plants after 2 weeks. Here in this figure, we have the results after 2 weeks. As you see, this is a plant A and this is a plant B. What happened to plant A after 2 weeks? It developed normally. What happened to plant B after 2 weeks? It faded. So what are we going to write in the comparison? Plant A developed normally while plant B faded. What does that indicate? Can a plant survive without sunlight? Remember, in this experiment, plant B was put in the dark in a closed box. What happened to plant B? It faded, while plant A that was exposed to sunlight developed. What does that mean? Can plants develop in the absence of sunlight? No, it can't. So, draw out a conclusion, write the answer in question 4 in worksheet 4. What is the conclusion? Here, what did we find out? Can plants survive without the presence of sunlight? We said no, plants can't survive in the absence of sunlight. What does that indicate? Sunlight is necessary for the development of the plants. Does the result of this experiment validate the hypothesis? Justify the answer. Write the answer in worksheet 4, question 5. Remember the hypothesis, sunlight is necessary for the development of the plant. Did we prove that? Is the hypothesis verified? How do you know? What happened to plant A that was put in the sunlight? It developed normally. What happened to plant B that was put in the dark? It died and faded. So, is sunlight necessary for the development of the plant? Sure it is, since plant B that was put in the dark faded and died. So here the answer is yes, the hypothesis is verified since plant B died in the absence of sunlight.
As a homework, please solve worksheet 5.
Thank you for watching and good luck.